The semantics-pragmatics distinction, what it is and why it matters. Kent Bach. The distinction between semantics and pragmatics is easier to apply than to explain. Explaining it is complicated by the fact that many conflicting formulations have been proposed over the past 60 years. This might suggest that there is no one way of drawing the distinction and that how to draw it is merely a terminological question, a matter of arbitrary stipulation. In my view, though, these diverse formulations, despite their conflicts, all shed light on the distinction as it is commonly applied, in both linguistics and philosophy. Although it is generally clear what is at issue when people apply the distinction to specific linguistic phenomena, what is less clear, in some cases anyway, is whether a given phenomenon is semantic or pragmatic, or both. Fortunately, there are other phenomena that are uncontroversially semantic or, as the case may be, uncontroversially pragmatic. Their example will help us get clear on what the semantics-pragmatics distinction is. Rationale. Perhaps the main reason for introducing the semantics-pragmatics distinction is to provide a framework for explaining the variety of ways in which what a speaker conveys can fail to be fully determined by the conventional linguistic meaning of the sentence he utters, indexicality, ambiguity, vagueness and open texture, semantic underdetermination, implicitness, implicature, non-literalness, non-truth conditional content, illocutionary force. The null hypothesis is that there is always some pragmatic explanation for how, in any given case, sentence meaning can underdetermine what the speaker means. For example, the null hypothesis about controversial claims of ambiguity on tests for ambiguity see Atlas 1989, ch2 is that diverse uses of an expression are best explained not by different pieces of linguistic information several conventional meanings but by one piece of linguistic information combined with extra-linguistic information. As Green has written, the possibility of accounting for meaning properties and syntactic distributions of uses of linguistic expressions in terms of conversational inferences rather than semantic entailments or grammatical ill-formedness was welcomed by many linguists as a means of avoiding redundant analyses on the one hand and analyses which postulate rampant ambiguity on the other. Green 1989, p. 106. However, it is merely the null hypothesis that a given linguistic phenomenon has a pragmatic explanation. Particular phenomena and specific constructions obviously have to be assessed on a case-by-case basis. Almost any speech act is really the performance of several acts at once, distinguished by different aspects of the speaker's intention. There is the act of saying something, what one does in saying it, such as requesting or promising, and how one is trying to affect one's audience. Kent Bach. Kent Bach is an American philosopher known primarily for his contributions to the philosophy of language, linguistics, and epistemology. He is a prominent figure in the study of speech acts, having co-authored Linguistic Communication and Speech Acts, which proposes a comprehensive theory of how linguistic utterances relate to communicative intentions and actions. Bach also engages extensively with the semantics-pragmatics distinction, arguing for a clear separation between the literal meaning of a sentence and what a speaker means in uttering it. His work often addresses puzzles and problems arising from propositional attitude attributions and the role of context in communication, emphasizing that context enables understanding but does not determine speaker meaning. Kent Bach was born in 1943. However, it does not provide any specific details about his early life beyond his birth year. Kent Bach's Exit Existentialism, A Philosophy of Self-Awareness, published in 1973, is an early philosophical work that, despite its concise 105 pages, delves into the experiential aspects of meaninglessness and alienation often associated with existentialism. The title suggests a potential departure from or reinterpretation of traditional existentialist thought, focusing instead on the concept of self-awareness. While specific details of his arguments aren't readily available, the book likely explores how an understanding of one's own consciousness and inner life might provide an exit or alternative perspective within the broader existential framework. After Exit Existentialism, A Philosophy of Self-Awareness 1973, Kent Bach's next significant work was the book Linguistic Communication and Speech Acts, co-authored with Robert M. Harnish, and published by the MIT Press in 1982. This book is a foundational text in the philosophy of language and linguistics, providing a comprehensive theory of speech acts. In this work, Bach and Harnish propose that almost any speech act involves performing several acts simultaneously, distinguished by different aspects of the speaker's intention. They elaborate on concepts like locutionary acts, the act of saying something; illocutionary acts, what one does in saying it, like requesting or promising, which is central to the concept of a speech act; and perlocutionary acts, how one tries to affect the audience, such as persuading or convincing. They move beyond earlier theories by Austin and Searle, arguing that the connection between language and communicative intentions is largely inferential, even for literal utterances, rather than purely semantic or conventional. The book delves into how hearers infer a speaker's intentions based on the content of the utterance, its context, and the speaker's communicative intention, often relying on mutual contextual beliefs. They also propose a speech act schema to analyze inferential processes in communication, including indirect and non-literal speech acts. This work aims to integrate philosophical, linguistic, and psychological issues to explain the complex process of linguistic communication. An Analysis of Self-Deception 1981, this earlier paper, appearing in Philosophy and Phenomenological Research, delves into a topic in the philosophy of mind and psychology, exploring the nature and mechanisms of self-deception. Following Linguistic Communication and Speech Acts 1982, Kent Bach's next book was Thought and Reference, published by Oxford University Press. This work presents an original approach to the enduring philosophical problems surrounding reference and singular terms, building upon and applying his earlier work in the theory of speech acts. The book offers a novel account of singular thought, which refers to thoughts about particular individuals, like thinking about a specific car or person. It also revives elements of Bertrand Russell's analysis of singular terms. Thought and Reference takes a distinctive approach by breaking down the complex issues of reference into their fundamental components. It has been described as a powerful and persuasive defense of a particular point of view of the relations between semantics and pragmatics, and an important contribution to the field. Beyond his three main books, Bach has consistently published numerous influential papers, continuously shaping the fields of philosophy of language and epistemology. In 1984, he wrote Default Reasoning, Jumping to Conclusions and Knowing When to Think Twice, delving into the cognitive processes by which humans form beliefs. The following year, in 1985, he made a significant contribution to epistemology with the rationale for reliabilism. In this paper, he introduced a crucial distinction between justified belief and justified believers, arguing that the debate between internalist and externalist theories of justification often stems from focusing on different aspects of justification. He proposed the taking for granted principle, suggesting that many beliefs are justified automatically or routinely without explicit reflection, which has implications for how we understand rational belief formation. Bach's focus on the nuanced relationship between literal meaning and speaker intention continued to be central in his later articles. In 1994, he introduced the highly influential concept of conversational impliciture, a notion designed to capture cases where what a speaker means is not explicitly stated, nor is it merely an implicature, but rather an expansion or completion of the semantic content of the utterance. This idea provided a middle ground in the semantics-pragmatics debate. He further elaborated on these themes in papers like Semantic Slack, What is Said and More 1994 or 2002 and the Semantics-Pragmatics Distinction, What It Is and Why It Matters 1997, where he meticulously articulated his view that while context is crucial for understanding, it doesn't determine meaning in a constitutive sense, rather, it enables the hearer to ascertain the speaker's meaning. His critical engagement with established theories continued in 1997 with a puzzle about belief reports and do belief reports report beliefs, both of which challenged the common specification assumption concerning that clauses in belief attributions. He argued that these clauses describe rather than directly refer to propositions, offering solutions to classic problems like Kripke's Paderewski puzzle. Speech Acts 1998. While his co-authored book Linguistic Communication and Speech Acts 1982 is central, Bach also contributed a later, possibly more concise, piece specifically titled Speech Acts for a broader publication or handbook, indicating a continued refinement and summarization of his views on the topic. In 1999, the myth of conventional implicature further refined the Gricean framework of conversational maxims. Quantification, Qualification, and Context, a reply to Stanley and Sabo 2000, published in Mind and Language. This paper shows his engagement in specific debates concerning how quantification and linguistic qualification are affected by context, responding directly to other philosophers' arguments. Jurgen was so called because of his name 2002. This paper, appearing in Philosophical Perspectives, likely delves into issues of naming, reference, and the complexities of how proper names acquire and maintain their reference, possibly through historical or causal chains. The Emperor's New Nose 2005, this contribution, found in Contextualism in Philosophy, Knowledge, Meaning, and Truth, engages with debates around epistemic contextualism, a view that the truth conditions of knowledge attributions can vary with context. More recently, in 2005, Content Ex Machina reiterated his stance against overstating the role of context in determining meaning. Speech Acts and Pragmatics 2006 and Pragmatics and the Philosophy of Language 2006, these two entries suggest broader survey or definitional pieces, possibly chapters in handbooks or guides, further solidifying his role in outlining the scope and importance of pragmatics within the philosophy of language. Applying Pragmatics to Epistemology 2008, appearing in Philosophical Issues, this paper explicitly bridges his two main areas of research, demonstrating how insights from pragmatics can inform and resolve problems in epistemology. His diverse interests also led to contributions like Talk About Wine 2008 in the Philosophy of Wine collection, Drawing More Lines, Response to Depreter and Salke 2016, as a response piece. This shows his continued active participation in contemporary debates, specifically on how to draw the line between semantics and pragmatics, and the nature of completion and expansion in utterance interpretation. And more recently, Loaded Words, on the Semantics and Pragmatics of Slurs 2018, showcasing his ongoing analytical precision in examining complex linguistic phenomena. His consistent output of articles demonstrates a sustained commitment to refining the understanding of communication, thought, and knowledge. It appearing to one that P justifies directly inferring that P provided that A it does not occur to one that the situation might be out of the ordinary, and B it probably would occur to one that the situation might be out of the ordinary. Kent Bach. Kent Bach, The Myth of Conventional Implicature. Grice's distinction between what is said and what is implied has greatly clarified our understanding of the boundary between semantics and pragmatics. Although border disputes still arise and there are certain difficulties with the distinction itself, see the end of section 1, it is generally understood that what is said falls on the semantic side and what is implicated on the pragmatic side. but this applies only to what is conversationally implicated. Grice's category of conventional implicature throws a monkey wrench into his distinction, inasmuch as conventional implicatures derive from the meanings of particular expressions rather than from conversational circumstances. This monkey wrench needs to be removed. I will argue that there is no such thing as conventional implicature and that the phenomena that have been described as such are really instances of something else. References: Kent Bach, A Puzzle About Belief Reports, 1997. A Puzzle About Belief Reports. Archived from the original on January 8, 2018. Retrieved May 23, 2018. Title = Content Ex Machina. Semantic versus Pragmatics, ed. Zoltan Gendler Sabo. Kent Bach, A Rationale for Reliabilism, The Monist, 1985. http user www.sfsu.edu batchratral.htm archived December 21, 2018 at the Wayback Machine. Bach, A Rationale for Reliabilism, 251. Bach, A Rationale for Reliabilism, 254. Bach, Rationale, 259.